All right, welcome back, Woodward Sports Network. We talked for a long time about the fact that the Lions took Jack Campbell at 18 and whether or not that was an overreach.
That's a reach.
That's a reach. Second-round pick, maybe even third-round pick. Maybe not. It appears that Tampa was in the market or in the...
he was on their board.
He was on their board.
And Elijah Campbell was on their board.
Elijah Cansey.
Can't see him too.
On their board, and they potentially were going to draft Jack Campbell at 19. Here's the video from the Tampa Bay Bucks.
We still had two guys that we really liked on the board, with Cansey being one of them. And, you know, when we had a shot either way Detroit picked, and when Detroit picked the other way and picked the linebacker and we got a chance to get Cansey, you know, it was pretty good.
And we have three players that we like in this order. They started going, getting selected. Now, Kalijah was at the top of that list, but we were just, you know, there's that chance that he's gone. And when the pick in front of us went, it wasn't Kalijah. That's where I was starting to sweat a little bit.
So there you go. Jason Light, general manager of the Tampa Bay Bucks, and Todd Bowles, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Bucks. And Maz, as you mentioned during the segment there, Kalijah Cansey was a player that a lot of Lions fans, I think, would have been over the moon to get. But, you know, Jack Campbell was the selection. And by sheer, look, we see the evidence.
Yeah.
They're talking about Jack Campbell at 19. So does it make you feel a little bit better? Well, I think we all feel better now that they got the player, right? That I think we all feel a little bit better. But does it even give you a little bit better feeling knowing that, yeah, Brad Holmes wasn't too far off there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is when you look at the draft, the reason why people were so mad and so shocked or so disappointed is because when you looked at a Kalijah Cansey, for instance, there was potential talks at one point of, what if you take Kalijah Cansey 6? So you know what that does? When you do say, well, shoot, if he's around at 18 and you get Kalijah Cansey, so then Kalijah Cansey became a very attractive and a very a sexy pick for the Detroit Lions, and especially the fans. Like, man, if we can get Cansey at 18, because you thought you were going to get him at 6, or you thought that was a reach, but 18 wouldn't. It's the same with Jack Campbell. We thought Jack Campbell at 48. Jack Campbell was a prospect that was talked about in the 40s, that was talked about in the 30s. So you're thinking, like, he'll be there at 40. He'll be there at 30, not 18. There's no need to get him. So at the end of the day, it goes back to this. The guys that scouted the draft, and that was Brad Holmes, his crew, the scouting department, and the Detroit Lions. They wanted Jack Campbell. They got Jack Campbell. Just like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they've been scouting him. I mean, you look at their roster right now. Tristan Wirfs, where's he from? He's from Iowa. You look at their the rookie that they got this year, I want to say Kayvon Merriweather. There's a rookie this year. Where's he from? Iowa. So you know that Todd Bowles, you know that the Buccaneers organization, they like Iowa players. And Jack Campbell is another one of those Iowa players that has had nothing but a tremendous career. His 3 years playing for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and now he's a Detroit Lion. That's who Brad Holmes wants. So, you know, everybody else should be excited. But with picks like this, with the head scratchers, man, you got small leeway for the head scratcher. It's like if you go to Kalijah Cansey at 18 and he doesn't work out, City's not mad at you. But Jack Campbell, the head scratcher, it's got to work out. Jahmyr Gibbs, if you take Bijan Robinson at 12, the City's not mad at you. Jahmyr Gibbs, it's got to work out.
I believe that they thought, and I believed them, that they needed a linebacker more than they needed an defensive lineman, a guy that's going to float around. Then they get Broderick, what's his last name? Broderick Martin. Mm-hmm. And this kid is supposed to be, he was terrific. They might have called it a reach at number 3, but the kid is raw, and he's got the talent that could become Cansey. He's bigger than Cansey. Cansey's an undersized guy. Yeah, his tape looks great. He looks like Aaron Donald in his tape, but we'll see how it works out. Again, here you go, man. You're not going to be able to mention Jack Campbell without Kalijah Cansey's name attached to him going forward. We'll see how they both do in their career.
Hopefully it's both great. I hope it's both great.
Look, and yesterday, Bray, we played audio of Louis Riddick, who was on Rich Eisen's NFL Network show.
Detroit Lion, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he was gushing about the Detroit Lions, what they did in the draft, gushing about Jahmyr Gibbs, and he said now he understands there were teams in the NFL that had Jahmyr Gibbs rated higher than Bijan Robinson, and obviously it looks now like Detroit was one of those teams because they had a chance to draft Bijan Robinson, and they made the trade ultimately and got their guy Jahmyr Gibbs.
people that always start a new path, Ryan, Ermanni, and Mass, people that always try something different, people that always see an angle before other people see it. What do those people usually call crazy? Excuse me. They call them crazy. Oh, this person doesn't know what he's talking about. They're very dismissive. Whether it was Nikola Tesla talking about what he was gonna do, you're not gonna have to plug anything up. Like whoever it was, this person is crazy. Until you start to see it work. And now what happens once it works, man? This person's already 20, 25, 40 years ahead of you. Yep. Now, I'm not trying to compare necessarily Brad Holmes to Nikola Tesla, but what I'm trying to say is he saw what he saw, he operated on what he saw, and now all of a sudden, people are coming out and saying, I see what he saw. I see how he's going to operate. It does look like it was a successful draft. That's why you got to trust yourself beyond all others, and Brad Holmes does that.
Not only trust themselves, but they trusted their own grading system. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys saw this. This was, according to a report from Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated, the Lions had 14 players with first-round grades. 4 of those players ended up getting drafted by the Detroit Lions. Let me just go back to that first number, 14.
We kept saying it, 15.
Yes.
That's the number.
Remember that, Braylon?
Yeah, I do.
How many times we did the story.
You bought that number in from a certain
that's right.
Yeah, mock draft guy.
We did the story that said they talked. It was a McShay thing, I think. It was a McShay who said there are an NFL general manager told him that if there are 15 first-round grades of prospects in any particular draft, that's a crappy draft. Yeah. There were less than 15 first-round grades in this draft.
And there it is, 14.
And here it is, 14. So was that general manager who gave McShay that info? Was that Brad Holmes? You know, I mean, think about that, was it?
Yeah.
So there were 14 first-round grades by Brad Holmes. That's who he and his staff came up with. Those players, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta. The fourth guy, Brian Branch, had a first-round grade.
Yep.
And they got 4 of the 14
nice.
First-round graded players.
Wow.
And then when you look at their film, when you look at Brian Branch, when you look at Sean Laporta, when you look at Jack Campbell, and then when you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, nothing about their film tells you otherwise. Nothing about their film tells you that, nah, this guy should have been a first rounder, or nah, this guy doesn't have first round, at least talent, or at least potential. Nothing about their film. You can't honestly say that. Now, once again, you still have to be right. But with that, the draft wasn't necessarily one of those type of drafts where every pick from 1 to 32, you're like, oh yeah, this one, oh yeah, this one, oh yeah, this one. There were some players you had to figure out. There were some needs you had to assess. What are my needs versus what's the top available player? And I think Detroit, after taking a step back, once again, I am one of those people too. I don't want you guys to think that I saw this a year in advance, because I didn't. But I had to take a step back, and you realize they got the guys that they wanted. They got them at the positions they wanted, man, pause, and then they're all first-round grades. And by most people's standard, by most people's metrics, including their own, they had one of, if not the best draft on record.
That makes me even I'm so happy, I can't explain how happy I am.
It's competence.
It really is.
Competence makes you okay to be a fan. It makes you know that, you know what, my faith in this team is placed in the right people, because I know they're doing what they're supposed to do to make this team a better team for the city. It's competence. Competence is sexy.
During the draft, I was getting texts from my folks in Jersey. My sister Jen follows the draft. My cousin Andrew, a bunch of friends. They were like, when the Lions picked Jahmyr Gibbs, all 4 of them wrote me and said, what are they doing? LOL. What the hell are they doing? And when they got Jack Campbell, I was getting rolling, LOL, rolling on the floor emojis, whatever the hell you want to call them. I mean, and I was like, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. I was sticking up for them. But I was like, this is what everyone's thinking. What are the Lions doing? And now you read this. Albert Breer saying they get 4 out of their top 14 picks.
Isn't that
pretty
something?
Damn good.
When it comes to the draft, and this is no disrespect to the fans out there, because when it comes to the draft, we're fans too. Hell, we got to listen to all the mock drafts and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Fans only boo for 2 reasons. They boo because, one, they don't know the player,
Right.
which means they weren't a popular
That's
player.
right.
Which means fans want you to draft the popular player. Or 2, they boo if you draft a guy that some mock draft guy or some Mel Kiper said you shouldn't draft, or that guy wasn't the person for your team, which basically means they're waiting for someone to tell them who to want.
Yeah.
And Brad Holmes just told you who to want. It's Sean Laporta, it's Jack Campbell, it's Jameer Gibbs, it's Brian Branch.
I'm already reading the Piston fans.
Oh, Lord.
And they're all getting excited now.
Oh,
they're
Lord.
all like, oh, we're on this guy, the guy
Right.
from Villanova. Oh, this guy from Houston. More tape I watch on him. He's this,
More
he's
tape.
that.
The more tape.
Whatever. It's just so exciting. We're really going to get a great player. So you know what? Whatever you tell us,
Yeah.
we're going to wind up believing. Unless you're an absolute NBA junkie scout that actually knows all these players. We don't know what the hell's going on. We don't. I'm going to root for whoever Mel Kiper tells me is
Yeah.
great, then I believe him.
That's why he belongs in the Hall of Fame.
He's done his homework. But at the end of the day, the majority of the time, he's right.
We're all the same.
He's earned that privilege.